Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to talk about how I create these small and short, almost like mini documentaries for clients as a one-man band in just around under 2 hours. So there will be situations where some clients want videos done, but due to schedules and timings you may only have a limited amount of time. The example I want to use is the video which I created for one of my clients that's a record label, and they had a single release coming out and they wanted some promotional content that they could use on their website as well as their social media platforms. I'll go through my process of how you can do this in order to get this done efficiently and quickly if you're just working as a one-man band. So the first thing I would say straight away is I always make sure that there's a clear brief between myself and the client. So understanding what exactly they want, what the video is going to be used for, and communicate back to them the best way to achieve this. As I know this was to promote their new single, what I wanted to do was, rather than take the obvious approach of just talking straight about the single, let's try and do something a little bit different. The producer of the track and the artist who sings the track, they worked together for quite some time and have had previous singles before. So what I said was, how about for this video we talk about the creative process and how the creative process works between the producer and the artist. So once I had agreed the brief, I kind of told them how I'd go about doing this, and that'll be just a quick short sit down interview as well as capturing some B-roll. So going into the shoot day, everyone knows what is going to be filmed and what to expect in terms of the video style. So the second thing I want to talk about now is location. As you're not going to have a lot of time to shoot this, it's not going to be realistic that you're going to be able to pick multiple locations to create this video. Some scenarios that might be possible, but in a lot of times it's not going to be realistic and you're just putting more pressure on yourself. So what I try to do is I always try and agree with a client to film this in a location that's going to have that gives context to what we're filming, rather than it being maybe just a really nice looking location but doesn't really bear any reflection to what we're filming. For this, I said it would be ideal to record this in a recording studio, as it bears context to what we're talking about, which is the creative process when working on music. They were going to be doing a recording session anyway for a separate track that they were working on. So I said, let's film on that day. Now the studio is very small, but the aesthetic of the studio was really nice, so it created a good backdrop for filming this video. So the third thing I want to talk about is equipment and what you're going to shoot with. As I'm working as a one-man band, in these scenarios, I will say it's always better to have gear that's easy for you to handle. So not too much gear, always try and keep it minimal. This was filmed on a Pocket 6K and Sigma 18-35 lens. Given that I didn't have a lot of time with the artist and the producer, setting up lighting will eat into your shoot time. So I try and keep the lighting to a minimum. I decided to use natural light. The producer had sent me pictures of the space, so I knew that the studio had big windows letting in a lot of natural light. And I decided to bring just my small tube light, which I've featured before, which is the Ambitful A2, just as a backup option if there was any shots where I felt I needed a bit of additional lighting. So when I'm doing shoots like this, I like to keep my rig really small. So I have a setup for shoots like this, and I strip back everything. I have a monitor and I have a battery, and I power for the big Sony MPF battery. I think at some point I will do a separate video on this really compact rig setup that I have for my Pocket 6K, as I tend to use it a lot on these type of shoots. With these videos, they always involve some form of sit-down interview. Given that these videos will usually end up on the internet for advertising or on social media platforms, I try and keep them anywhere between 60 and 90 seconds max. I try not to have really long interviews because that's just going to make it much harder for me in the edit to squeeze something down to 60 to 90 seconds. So I try and just ask anywhere between 1 and 3 questions max. And for this, I just asked one question: what is the creative process for you guys? Because they've worked together on multiple tracks. So I thought it would be good to just show that kind of insight about the chemistry they have as producer and artist. And I felt I can get that answer with just one question, you know, because there's a lot of detail that can be extrapolated from that question. And I felt that would give me enough to have in the edit to create something either 60 seconds or minute 30. So when it comes to setting up the interview, as I mentioned, you always want to try and pick somewhere that has a lot of visual interest, so to give context. So, and as we're in the studio, this made it a little bit easier. So for the producer, I placed him on one side of the room and there was a guitar hanging on the wall, and I said, I'll place you next to that, so there's a bit of visual interest. That side of the room had decorative wallpaper, so I thought that would add more visual interest, and I just tried to position him not so close to the wall, just to add a bit of separation between him and the wall. And then once again, always trying to shoot shadow side and just using the natural light coming in from those big windows. The singer on the track, similar kind of thing. I just placed them on the other side of the room, but next to some of the recording equipment to once again create a little bit of visual interest in the background. Same approach, aiming to shoot shadow side and just using the natural light coming in from the window as my key light. My approach for this is always making sure that everything is kind of stripped back, and I wouldn't do everything exactly the same way I was doing if I was doing a shoot that I had a bit more time. So once again, as I mentioned, I use minimal amount of equipment. I keep my rig minimal. I reduce the amount of time I'll spend asking interview questions, and also make sure that the B-roll I capture is very intentional so that I'm not wasting any time, and I'm also getting good B-roll to supplement the interview footage. So that was my process for how I go about creating these short mini branded documentaries as a one-man band in around 2 hours. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, let me know in the comments, and also give me your feedback on what you think of my approach, or if there's anything I could change, or let me know you guys' approach as well. It's always good to learn from other cinematographers and other filmmakers and other creatives, as every day I'm still learning different processes and approaches to make my work better. So it'd be good to hear what you guys think as well. But for now, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.
The creative process for me is I make the track, definitely with Tendai in mind. She's the go-to singer for me. I'll send it to her just to see if she catches a vibe.
I'll listen to it straight off the bat and kind of like just write what comes to my mind. Sometimes I'm really quick with it, sometimes it takes a while, but whatever T sends to me, I kind of get a feel for it and then just kind of write there and then as soon as I've got the track.
I approach tracks super different because we have a personal relationship. Obviously, we've been friends for a very long time.
It's so funny. There's lots of people that are always like, oh, we want what you had with T. We want that same sort of vibe and sound. We really like love music, care, respect for it, and we have a friendship outside of the music, which I think helps us to kind of like create the music that we do.
That friendship means that kind of like how I create with her is very personal. When we create, it's definitely part like kind of making music, part therapy session, I guess we could call it as well. At the same time, we get our feelings out, get the stories out, what's going on. 70% when we're creating, it's like just being friends and kind of like having a laugh. And then 30% is probably like we're actually getting down to the nitty-gritty work that needs to be done.
Because he's my friend as well, he can really be like, okay, you're not leaving until this song is done, kind of thing. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, you know, let me kind of dig deep and push myself and get out of my comfort zone and really come up with the work that we have done so far.